While the past 30 hours have consisted of free agent signings after free agent signings, we actually have a couple of relatively significant trades to talk about in this video. They happened pretty much at the same time, so I figured I would just make one video where we discuss both. As always, be sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter to stay connected. Links to those will be down below in the description. And of course, if you guys are new to this channel and you want to see more NHL content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And now let's talk about some trades. We'll talk about this trade first because I guess it is a little bit less exciting. It's a 1-for-1 swap. Andreas Johnsson is headed to the New Jersey Devils in exchange for Joey Anderson. After signing free agents Wayne Simmonds and TJ Brodie, we knew that the Maple Leafs were going to have to make some type of trade to shed some salary. Two of the names that were brought up the most were Alexander Kerfoot and Andreas Johnsson, who obviously wound up getting moved. Looking at this move as just a cap dump, which is pretty much what it was, the Leafs did pretty good all things considered. Yes, Andreas Johnsson is a better player right now than Joey Anderson, but Anderson isn't just a throwaway player either. He's 22 years old, was a third-round pick by the Devils back in 2016, and had 34 points in 44 American Hockey League games in the 1920 season, and also 6 points in 18 NHL games. He is currently an RFA, but won't cost over $1 million, and at the worst, he could be a really solid top 6 forward for the Toronto Marlies, and at the best, he could be a really cheap option for the Maple Leafs in their bottom 6. Kyle Dubas did a pretty good job here, shedding salary, which is something obviously the Maple Leafs desperately needed to do, and instead of getting like a 6th or a 7th round pick in return, they actually got a player who could wind up playing for them. And looking at this trade from the perspective of the New Jersey Devils, this is a pretty solid pickup for them. Andreas Johnsson is locked up for the next 3 seasons at a $3.4 million cap hit, and while yes, he is coming off of a down year where he had just 8 goals and 21 points in 43 games, if he can get back to being the 20 goal scorer that he was in the 2018-19 season, then that cap hit is more than reasonable. I'm interested to see where the New Jersey Devils are going to slot Andreas Johnsson into the lineup, if they're going to have him as a third line scoring forward or maybe even try him in the top 6, because I'm looking at the roster right now and there's not a lot of depth on the wing. You got Kyle Palmieri, Nikita Gusev, Miles Wood, Pavel Zacha, who's like a winger slash center, Jesper Bratt, and Jesper Boqvist if he's a full-time NHLer next year. So adding Andreas Johnsson to that group, it definitely does give them some more depth on the wing. I'm sure they're still going to be a lot more active in free agency, maybe add another winger or two, because I believe they still have a ton of cap space. It'll be interesting to see how this trade plays out for them, but overall I like the add of Andreas Johnsson, and it could turn out to be a really good trade if, like I said, he gets back to being the player he was in the 2018-19 season. Moving on now to the other trade we have to talk about, Nikita Zadorov and Anton Lindholm have been traded to the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for Brandon Saad with $1 million of his salary retained and Dennis Gilbert. This is definitely pretty interesting. It's a trade that I really did not see coming. It sort of came out of left field, and I'm honestly not sure if this really makes either team that much better. I guess we can look at the trade first from the perspective of the Chicago Blackhawks. The main piece going back to them is of course Nikita Zadorov, 25-year-old defenseman. Definitely not a guy who's going to come in and bolster your top 4, but he is a solid, physical, big, bottom pairing defenseman. They also get Anton Lindholm in the trade, who, like Zadorov, is a 25-year-old defenseman. He's probably going to play in the AHL for them, but is a guy who can come in and step into the NHL lineup if he needs to, due to an injury or something like that. In my opinion, though, the biggest reason Chicago makes a trade like this is to free up some cap space. After making this trade, they now have $8.41 million in cap space. That is going to make life on Stan Bowman a lot easier. It should not be difficult at all now to get a deal done with RFA Dylan Strome. They already re-signed Dominic Kubalik. So yeah, that's kind of all I really have to say about this trade, looking at it from Chicago's point of view. Again, it doesn't really make them a worse team, but it definitely doesn't make them a better team either. So now looking at it from the perspective of the Colorado Avalanche, if I had to pick an early winner for this trade, I would probably say it's them. Yes, Brandon Saad is overpaid, a cap hit of $6 million, but again, like I said, $1 million of that is retained by the Hawks, and there's only 1 year left on his deal anyways, and Colorado has a ton of cap space. The cap hit, the contract, that will not be an issue at all, and when you look at it that way, this is actually a pretty solid ad for the Avalanche. Brandon Saad is 27 years old, is still a more than capable top 6 forward. He scored 21 goals in 58 games this season, and he definitely kind of rounds out the top 6 now for the Colorado Avalanche. You get the top line, obviously, of McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog, and then you can roll out a second line centered by Nazem Kadri with Brendan Brandon Saad and Andrei Burakovsky on the wings. That's a really good top 6. They also get Dennis Gilbert in the trade, who's a defenseman and similar to Anton, Lindholm will probably just play in the AHL and can play some NHL games if you need him to. Overall, this is a pretty solid trade for the Colorado Avalanche. They're not going to miss Zadorov. He was definitely expendable when you think about the defensemen on that team right now, and Bowen Byram probably coming in and playing in the NHL next season. They bolster their top 6, get yet another weapon offensively as if they didn't already have enough, and they didn't have to give up a lot to do it, even if it is just for one season of Brandon Saad. So that is going to do it for this video. Those are my thoughts on the 2 trades that went down earlier tonight. I'm very curious to hear what you guys think though, especially if you're a fan of any of the teams involved, so be sure to post your thoughts down below. I just want to say thank you guys so much for all of the support on the channel lately. It has been insane. We just hit 45,000 subscribers, so thank you all so much for that. If you did enjoy today's video, please be sure to leave it a like. That is the best way to show your support. And of course, if you are new to the channel and you want more NHL content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you guys all in the next video.